Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your interest in the subject matter. It's wasn't always the case that people involved in producing media were interested in the subject of making media accessible and determining that everybody can participate. You know, the term itself, accessible media, to me, might mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And particularly people with disabilities tend to think of something being accessible as kind of mechanical or technological. Can your computer read the website and convert the text into speech so you can hear it? Or can is there a ramp that enables your wheelchair to get, to the doorway? Things like that. But in the case of media in particular, I think accessible really could be thought of in a broader sense, and it would do all of us good to consider that. And that is, something's accessible when it includes everybody. And Hobben's theme of inclusion is a theme that I spend a lot of time thinking about, talking about, and trying to share with other people in terms of concept. How can we be more inclusive in the things that we do as a society? I thought a lot about what I might be able to say in a short time, and I think it's almost as important what I decided I wasn't going to say. A lot of people would probably like to hear a lot of the basic nuts and bolts about audio description, particularly anybody who produces media. Questions like, what is audio description? How does it work? How do you create it? How do you know if it's, good, bad, indifferent? And I think a lot of people could talk about a lot of those subjects. Certainly the nuts and bolts, the technical aspect of it, the cost. I've done presentations on how to shop for description services and how to compare and so on and so forth. But I decided that what I would focus on are the areas that there are very few people that could or would speak about. So forgive me if I make certain assumptions about your awareness of description and what it is, and I'll make sure at least I should throw out a few facts about it for those that aren't aware of audio description. I thought I could call this little topic audio description, made in America, but widely used everywhere else. It has been a long road in this country to embracing audio description as a means for someone to enjoy media, to really understand it and participate in it without seeing the screen. And that's really what it's all about. It's a sister service to closed captioning where we put words on the screen, and everybody's used to that now. In fact, I have some facts you may not think about very often. More hearing people use captions on the screen than deaf or hard of hearing people. In other words, closed captions are more widely used by the general population that can hear than they are by people who have trouble hearing. Everyone's seen it, sports bars, airports, and there's very obvious benefits for lots of groups. But remember, the people that created closed captions weren't thinking about that. They had no vision. They didn't understand, this is going to be great for everybody. And when people tried to promote captioning in the 70s, media producers were resistant. Why do we need to do this? Well, it's just a very small group of people. Well, I don't think my film's of particular. Well, you know, there aren't that many deaf people that are going to probably want to watch my film. You know, oh, do deaf people actually watch TV? These kinds of questions. You know, there was all the same sort of resistance, and we've seen that with audio description in the 90s and early 2000s as well. One thing that is actually an exciting fact about audio description, and I'm really glad that you're here tonight to hear it, is that the audio description industry, if you will, meaning the companies that produce audio description and the widespread use of audio description in the United States, is really at the front end of what we might call an explosion phase. That's where the amount of described media available for consumers is growing now exponentially each year rather than just percentage-wise. So if you look at how much description was there in 1990 versus 1991, or in 2002 versus 2003, the growth, the increase in the availability of described media was incremental, 2%, 5%, something like 10% in a good year. But what we've seen in the recent 3 years is exponential growth, 2 times the previous year, 4 times the previous year. And we all know from watching what happened in the captioning industry that the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to see continued exponential growth, 4 times, 10 times, to where 5 to 10 years from now, most media will be audio described. So to be learning about something when it is really becoming widely known and relevant is exciting. You could be at the front edge of the raised awareness and increase of knowledge and availability. And this is good news for people looking for career change, or people looking at how can they bring something new to what they've been doing for a while, some new thing to learn that's relevant to what you do. So why is it an explosion phase? Well, maybe I should have explained my proposed title for Made in America and widely used everywhere else. Audio description was first created and tested and used in 1982 in Washington, D.C., but for live shows, for live stage shows at the Washington. Then it was successfully tested for television. Could you actually put description on television and make it possible for someone to hear it using the secondary audio program? That was in 1989, and Jim Stovall and company successfully demonstrated it, that it could be done, and they rightfully received an Emmy Award for that technical demonstration of what was possible with television. But when it was required, when the FCC proposed a rule to put description, to require description on broadcast television, there was resistance. And it's just a matter of history. It's behind us now, but history will tell that the Motion Picture Association and supported by the AMPTP and other media conglomerates and giants fought and sued the government, eventually prevailed, and stopped the production and distribution of description in the United States for about 7 years. In the meantime, as soon as it had become widely used on public, because PBS embraced it from the very first, once it was demonstrated. So during the 90s, we had description on PBS. No one knew, just like most of you probably didn't know, that you could go watch, turn on your secondary audio, alternate audio on your television sets and cable sets and whatnot, and you can go hear it on the 9 biggest broadcasting cable networks during primetime television. Any night of the week, you can hear it. You can hear it on public TV, plenty of places. You can go check it out on Netflix and various other media outlets online. People don't know. But The rest of the world, once it was demonstrated here, they embraced it to where Canada has an entire cable network that every single program 24/7, including the commercials, is described. They have plenty of description on their other networks as well. In England, it's well over 60%. I saw a report from the UK that it was 65%. That was 2.5 years ago, and I know it's grown since then. Its description is widely used. Poland, Germany, Spain, France, Brazil. And we sat here and lagged and argued about it in courtrooms until finally Congress passed a definitive law in 2010, the Communications Video Accessibility Act, CVAA, and which was implemented as of July 2012. And now that once and for all says, okay, broadcasters, you have to do this, and it's on an increased scale, just like happened with captioning decades before. So that's kind of as much as I want to do of the history of it. Actually, that's more than I want to do of the history of it. But the gist is, I like to explain description as you say what you see. You're adding a voice to the program to describe what's on the screen. The number one issue, I guess number two rules, there are really 10, and you can go, if you go online, there's tutorials how to do description yourself, what are the basic principles of description, you can find that information. But just to give you an orientation, you don't talk over the dialogue of the show, and you don't just add description of things that the blind person can already tell by listening to the show. Remember, blind people were really, even though no one knew, we were watching TV and films even before there was description. It's just, I thought I hated action movies. Well, I didn't. I just didn't know what was going on. That's all. And I actually did put myself through the 45 minutes of silence in Tom Hanks' Castaway movie when he's on the island with the volleyball. And all I heard was footsteps and ocean for 45. My wife, Amber, who also is blind, fell asleep. But I said, I'm going to see if I can figure out what's going on in this show. I understood how it ended, but I had no idea who Wilson was. So it's really because of the mandated broadcast. The broadcast mandate in this country finally coming to pass, and credit where credit's due, also because Netflix decided to embrace it when they didn't technically legally have to yet, although there's, FCC has put everybody on notice it's going to be mandated, but they said, let's just go ahead and do this. And so the term localization. Localization is the buzzword of the entertainment industry now, and that means when you produce media, you make it as universally accessible as you can. You create it in multiple languages, you create subtitles in multiple languages, captions in multiple languages, audio description in multiple languages. All those files, all those things get bundled together in a platform so that you can distribute your media anywhere, anytime, and whether they're playing it in Turkey or in Africa or in Brazil, they have what they need in order to enjoy your media. That's really localization in a nutshell. And because media is finding profits in global markets, there's a focus on localization, and I'm proud to say that audio description is considered an essential element in localization services. And so that is what has really turned the corner in the entertainment industry for audio description, is that it's now seen not so much as this terrible thing that's being forced on filmmakers by the evil government because of a few tiny people that are too small of a group to care about. Instead, it's now seen as one of the equally important elements to make media enjoyable and understandable for everybody, regardless of their language, their disability, or whatever. I would go on to say that what they'll find down the road here, we will all learn that we will together find out what will be the alternate uses of audio description and how people who can see perfectly well will be enjoying audio description. We already know that long-haul truckers enjoy it. We already know that people focusing on other tasks, washing the dishes or working on the computer can listen to a program and not miss and be able to follow what's going on because they have the description turned on. But we'll find out what else audio description has to offer. So I'll just finish with the 2 points that I think I can uniquely make more than other people in the industry. And it's not that I'm, have anything extra special. I just happen to be a totally blind consumer who likes media and who has listened to hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of described media. I happen to be someone that was involved in promoting audio description when it was first implemented. I'll take this little sidebar to help you with a couple terms. Audio description is the general term. Audio description meaning verbally describing something. Video description, which is what the government calls it, is simply applying audio description to media. When you're describing media, for some reason they changed the name to video description. But audio description, you can audio describe. There's audio description on cruise ships, museums, you name it. Anything that's visual, has visual elements to it, can be audio described. So anyway, having got that term explained, I would just say that being totally blind, being an experienced consumer, being an early advocate and promoter of audio description, and being a professional audio engineer in a post-production environment since 1987, I can compete with the best of them at a mixing console, a digital audio mixing workstation, recording, editing, mixing. I understand the technical ins and outs of post-production. I know how to marry picture to audio for your video products. I can talk all the technical talk that you want about video production. There are not many people in this country who have all of those unique skill sets in one person. And so that is de facto how I end up sort of becoming and have become an expert in this field and have been recognized for that by the largest blindness organizations in the country. So what my favorite thing, and if I can just leave you with these things to think about, is kind of getting beyond the basics of audio description. And one of those is to think about the value of it. What is the value of audio description? Well, it's kind of obvious to some people. Well, people that can't see the screen can then enjoy the media, know what's going on. Yeah, that's true. It has value for the consumers who are blind, like myself. What some content producers, filmmakers and whatnot, what they don't realize is there's value in it for them as well. Because with, well over 21 million visually impaired Americans who have an interest in media and would benefit from video description, we're talking about exposure for your media products. We're talking about an audience. People that are eager, that just by describing your media, you will attract an audience that even if the subject matter isn't immediately appealing, we're going to watch it if it's described, because not everything is. So it's a fraction of all the media in the world that has description. Therefore, this population gravitates to those things which are described. You'll watch it just because it's described before you'll watch something that's not. There's value there for the people that produce the media. And then I would suggest that there's value for society at large, because when we're inclusive and we can all have the same conversation, regardless of our background, ethnicity, socioeconomic situation, or disability, we now have the resources, the creativity, the intelligence, the experience, the wisdom of all of the people in society. Society, it's like mining a resource, if you will. If everyone is on the same page, if everyone can absorb the message of the media, now we can all have the conversation and we can all benefit from the commentary and the discussions about the issues and stories presented in the media. And society is better off for that. So I'm sure there are other ways in which accessible media is valuable. And I look forward to hearing your comments about that. And finally, the topic of quality. My banner, my mantra, my theme, my repeated emphasis is about the quality of the description that's available. You see, early on, advocacy was for more description because there was so little. But my concern, and the concern of a lot of blind people, is yes, there may be more and more and more, and there will be, and there's, you know, as I said, exponential growth. We're seeing a lot more media with description. But does the description really serve? Is it really something we want to listen to? So I want to not lose the focus on make sure that the quality of the description you provide, that it is worth using. And well, I'll edit my more controversial comments about that, but I'll say, so we got to think about, well, how do you measure quality? And I can't get into that with you at this time, but I have made pretty detailed presentations with a lot of methods for how to measure. I'll tell you briefly, though, there's 3 standards, national standards for audio description in this country. I'm proud that I was invited and served on the committees that created those standards. And those things, you can find them online. That's not hard to do. I'm more interested in promoting how do you know that you're creating quality description? And after many, many hours of discussing that topic with the brightest people I know in the blind population and in this media industry, it really comes down to inclusion again. Include blind professionals in the process. How can sighted people who have no trouble seeing the screen watch media and make the best decisions about what a blind person needs to know or is going to want to know about that program that they're watching? You really have to at least consult, and I would advocate for employ blind people in your operation. If you're producing description, you put the experts in the process. That's the way to know that you're getting quality description. If you get expert blind consumers to sign off and say, this is good description, well, who's going to argue with them? So that's, again, something to think about and something to consider. If the very least for those people that are doing description themselves, and I have tutorials, through the Video Description Research and Development Center, I was invited to sort of teach do-it-yourself description. Those are online too. Quality matters, and there are ways to achieve it. So that's my my repeated message, and I'm happy to entertain questions or comments on that subject as well. And I will just leave you with the idea that getting description is very different. How do you get it in a theater? How do you get it on television? How do you get it online? How do you hear it in a museum or in an airplane? And it's available in all those places, but you've got to know how to hear it. And there's a education campaign we need to do. But since we're here at Google, if you want to contribute your own description, and I encourage you to, describe it. If it's not described, doesn't matter if people are like, but what if I do a bad job? You know what? I'd rather hear your bad description than not any at all. So go to YouTube. You can actually go to youdescribe.com, and Google's well aware of this. They worked very closely with my good friend Dr. Josh Mealy at Video Description Research and Development Center. Youdescribe.com will enable you to describe any video that's on YouTube and to hear the description that's already available for any video that's on YouTube. So I encourage you to experiment, have fun, enjoy it, see if it's something you like it, if you hate it, if whatever it is, but become familiar with it, get close to it, and figure out whether it's something that holds either a career opportunity for you or another alternative way to enjoy your entertainment, or if it's just interesting for conversations at parties. Have a really nice evening. Thank you.